So I'm here with Mariana, and well, someone who's got many hats actually. One of them is sound engineer and also a lecturer. So please tell me more about your experiences of a sound engineer in a male-dominated industry.
I think you often find yourself working much harder than anyone else to just get the same recognition. I mean, I often find that when male colleagues get recognised for something, even if you've done something much more impressive, that doesn't always get the same recognition. I've even had situations where I've collaborated with male colleagues, and people just assumed the majority of the work had been done by my male colleagues. So they would say, oh, he did this wonderful technical sheets. And I was like, actually, I did those. And I think that makes it really hard because it creates this environment where there's tensions with people that probably are not even responsible for that, let's call it misunderstanding. And I think that's just it just pollutes the work environment, and it just makes everyone not want to collaborate if that's what you get out of it. So I think it's so important that we think about equality, not just as a woman's thing. It really isn't. If we're equal, we're just creating a wonderful environment for everybody involved.
Yeah, no, definitely. How was your experiences studying as a sound engineer? Because I know that there's loads of networks now, like Sound Woman, for example, that support that. What was your experiences like?
Well, I come from a bit of a mixed background. So as an undergraduate, I did a degree that was similar to musicology. Although there were more men than women, it was a bit different than audio engineering. When I did postgraduate studies, then those differences started to become more obvious, because then I was in a sound design course. It was kind of a small cohort at the time, but I was the only woman in it. I have had excellent female tutors. I have also had excellent male tutors. But I think that the more I progressed through my studies, and I think that it was when I started doing more public things that exposed you more to kind of the real world, that I started realizing there was an issue and that people were looking at me in a different way than they were looking at the work of my male colleagues. So there was a few years where I actually didn't realize there was a problem. And then you start thinking, okay, why did someone say that? Or why did I get, sometimes you would get really negative responses out of something that was not that such a bad thing. And even like recently, I was at an event representing the Audio Engineering Society with one of my colleagues, and there was this person that was attending the event from an acoustics company, and we were standing next to each other, and I was completely ignored throughout the whole conversation. My male colleague got a business card. I wasn't even looked at during the whole event, and I ended up walking away because no one was actually talking to me. And I think that, again, that's just, I think it was pretty obvious what the reason was. And I think that that's also the moments when the role of men becomes really important, because the men involved in that conversation that didn't agree with that attitude should have spoken up. They should have said, okay, this is my colleague, and made it very clear that they did not accept that behavior, because then that person would have really kind of taken the hint that that was not a way of behaving.
Yeah, that's outrageous behaviour. So you think the next steps that we should take as a society is that men should make a stand, yes?
Absolutely. I think we all should make a stand. I think sometimes as women, speaking up and telling someone in front of other people that was inappropriate, as someone that has done it, it's an incredibly difficult situation to be in. You don't know if the rest of the people are going to support you. You don't know what the reaction. Sometimes you even have that fear of, is everybody going to think, that I'm making this up, or that this is kind of it's kind of you're overreacting. So I think as women we have the responsibility, but I think again is if we work together and if we don't, it's like with anything that you wouldn't agree with that is unethical, you would call it out, you will say something. So I think this is just the same thing. So if a guy thinks, okay, actually that was a sexist thing to say, I don't agree with this, they should definitely speak up.
Of course, yes, I agree completely. And you're a lecturer as well, so that's educating our future generation. What would you say is the balance between genders in the courses that they take?
It really depends on what your course is on. So because I teach on filmmaking, it's a bit different than a pure audio engineering course. So I run the master's program in sound design for film at the University of York, and actually we're doing really well on equal numbers. We have seen a bit of a shift in the last few years, and actually the nice thing in our program is that both myself and the other sound lecturer, we're both women, so I think that's quite a nice thing for both male and female students to see, and it's something that I personally, in my lectures, if I see that, for example, sexist terminologies use things like a kind of a sound guy or boom man, I do kind of take the time to say, actually, that it's not an appropriate term, because actually there's loads of women that do that job. And sometimes you realise students have actually never thought about it. They're just using it because they're just repeating what has been used in the industry. So I think it's an important part of my role to say, actually, we should actually use that term. And I even kind of ran into a conversation. I overheard a conversation by a few of my students the other day. They were talking about that quite openly, and they say, actually, no, the right term is this. And I thought it was a really lovely thing to see. To say, actually, it's not just when I'm there, but when I'm not there, they're actually taking that message and kind of, in a way, they're kind of looking at each other for support and discussing why it is important. So I thought that was actually quite a nice thing to see.
Yeah, wonderful. You're pushing students to reflect on society themselves. That's fantastic. So we are at We Are Robots, the event. Yeah. What are you hoping that people take away from this event?
Well, I'm hoping they feel supported, and a lot of the reasons why I sometimes tell personal stories is because I'm hoping they resonate with other people, and people don't feel like I'm the only one that this happens to, because I think that's why people don't speak about it, because they think, oh, maybe it's just me, maybe it has to do with myself and not a problem of discrimination. So I think that I personally find it very encouraging when I'm with a group of women and they share their experience, and I say, oh, okay, actually that happened to me as well. How did you deal with it? What could we do together? And I think that is a really, really important thing to take out of these panels. But again, it would have been great to have kind of male representatives as well, kind of given their point of view on how they would feel, kind of how they feel about gender equality, because many of them are kind of really passionate about the subject. I have wonderful male colleagues that just works on the topic just as hard as I do, and I'm sure they have things to say that again could reinforce this message of equality.
And finally, you spoke of a pledge earlier. Where can people sign up?
Yes, so this is the He for She United Nations campaign for gender equality. The Audio Engineering Society has pledged its commitment to the campaign, and we want to become thematic champions for the audio industry. To do that, we need to show that our members and the audio industry, music industry in general are behind us. So we're asking people to go to heforshe.org, and you basically click on a button that says Count Me In, and you just enter your name, your email address. It's completely free. It takes literally two minutes, and they send you an email saying that they welcome you to the campaign. And basically what you're doing is signing a moral commitment to gender equality, saying that you recognise that it's a problem and they're willing to do your part in that, even if it's a tiny part, like saying, oh, actually, I don't think that was appropriate. And we want our members to do this small step that for many seems silly and insignificant, but actually it is about speaking out loud about the problem. So we do welcome all the pledges that we can receive. We share them through social media as well, channels to inspire even more people to sign up.
Yeah. Well, the small steps that we can do together make a big change. So Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice to meet you.